one of the things I really wanted to chat to you about, which I've never really spoken to you about, but I am aware that you spent time at Bar Harbor, the famous place where Scott and Fuller worked and did the work on social behavior uh, in
Dogs.
dogs. And I mean, I don't know where even to begin. I'm just being nosy. I mean, what was it like? I mean, what was Scott and Fuller like? What was the experience like? Do you think it was a good setup? I mean, in this country, we've got Dogs Trust who are doing this thing called Generation Pup, where they're going to try and follow 10,000 pups through on a longitudinal study, which will be, nobody's ever going to replicate the sort of facilities they had at Bar Harbor. And I do think, personally, I think that some of the results are misunderstood and also misrepresented, and science moves on. And, the Dogs Trust work being led by Rachel Casey, I think is an amazing piece of work. So if you've got a puppy, by the way, go onto the Dogs Trust site, because you can register there and they'll follow you up. But I mean, what was it like, the whole setup? Because it's such a classic piece of work.
Well, the main lab was and now is mouse genetics. And I applied for this program because I was interested in behavior. It wasn't a coincidence that I applied for it. And or that I wanted to do the dog part rather than the mouse part. But my research was actually on mice. I'm studying salt licking in horses. Then I was studying how long it takes a mouse of a given strain to chew through cardboard to get at food. So my research has not improved much in the 60 years I've been doing it. But every morning, about half a dozen of us would get in a little bus and we would go to the dog lab, which was, 10 miles away from the main lab. And we would sit down at a big table with Scott and Fuller, and they would talk. And that's how I learned about dog behavior. Scott was brilliant and a good teacher and so on, and Fuller was sort of blah. Unfortunately, the one who retired at a university near me was Fuller, not Scott. And he would come and give lectures to my class, which were not very inspiring. But it was very good. And they were nice people. And it changed my life in that I had always going to be, of course, an equine practitioner. But I had learned at Penn State that, judging from the way my classmates treated me, their fathers were not going to call me when their horses got sick. I was not going to be able to be an equine practitioner. So I decided that summer that research was what I wanted to do, because I really enjoyed doing it, the process. The other big part of that was that it was there that I met and fell in love with another classmate, and 50 years later we got back together.
That's your friend in Michigan.
Yes, my friend in Michigan.
So. Wow, amazing how things go round, isn't it? But so I mean, what was the setup like in those days with looking after the dogs? I mean, because it's difficult to know sort of when they talk about the social isolation experiments. You can read it in the books, but I just wonder, I mean, what was it like for the puppies?
Well, I don't remember seeing much of it, and these were the waning days, I think. Michael Fox left shortly before I came, and very soon Scott went off to Bowling Green and Fuller came to Binghamton. So I don't think they were doing a whole lot. But I remember there were dogs in pens. We could never get away with what they did by putting a puppy in a box with absolutely no contact with anybody. But the results were really fantastic. That there were such breed differences. You could treat dogs exactly the same way, and one set of dogs would be very obedient, the other set of dogs would not.
Do you think they realized at the time the significance of their work? Because, their book was published in the 1960s. It's still, it's still in print. I don't know another scientific book that's, still avidly read.
That's right. And nobody seems to read what they said. The differences within breed were greater than the differences between breeds. But still, when you looked at it, we certainly see those same differences. If somebody calls me up and has a Sheltie, I said, "Oh, and he barks too much."
But, yeah, no. But do you think they realised though that this was going to be? I mean, they were using dogs as a model. They weren't. I mean, I guess they weren't
They were
particularly dog people,
primarily
were they?
interested.
Sorry.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm really not sure of their early history. I think maybe Scott, just because he seemed much keener, was interested in dogs as dogs. But at the moment, they were interested in them because NIH would give them money to study dogs as models. So people.